Let me talk a little bit about the interaction, the interdependence between the producers and the U.S. government. Maybe start with Operation Warp Speed itself. Pfizer, of course, didn't take money for the research. You guys did about $1 billion. Give me a little bit of what was the thinking behind your decision, especially since you had lots of funding sources already, to be a part of and receive that money from the U.S. taxpayer.
Well, the Operation Warp Speed, let me just say at a high level, was, in my view, an important part of what allowed the current situation to exist. The government did not just offer Moderna the support, it offered everybody the support. And everybody but Pfizer, for their own reasons, being the large company that they are, took that support, because in addition to the support, what that also involved is being part of a consortium that harmonized clinical trials, protocols, tests, a lot of open communication about the results as we were doing phase 1, phase 2. Phase 3 is a separate matter, but there was a lot of sharing, and that whole thing was enabled by Operation Warp Speed. So yes, we certainly, as the least resourced company, felt that this was the appropriate thing to do, because we were taking the money not only thinking of this year, but also thinking ahead of being in a position to prepare to produce up to 1 billion doses next year. You should realize that the timelines are such that unless we placed orders back in June, July for hundreds of millions of doses, we would not be in a position in 2021 to deliver. So the money went to more than R&D. That's a bit of a misconception, but because there was clinical lots and then being ready to manufacture for a global community. So that was a very important intervention. And I think that the coordination also helped. We happened to be the first to go through the NIH coordinated OWS sponsored set of clinical trials. But I think it's going to help the other companies who come behind us. AstraZeneca, J&J, Novavax, these are all companies that are essentially running similar trials and are going to be able to use the learnings.
So, I mean, given that the Trump administration has, and with legitimate reason, taken a lot of criticism for the politicization of various parts of response to this pandemic, but as far as Operation Warp Speed is going, you're saying this was led by science, this was led by the United States government, this has been a success.
Without any caveats. I mean, the only thing one could find fault with maybe is the name, because it's kind of a little bit scary and most people don't even know what warp speed is unless they've watched Star Trek. But so I actually sometimes jokingly tell people, just call it OWS, so that it's just some letters. But for that, I think there's been a whole lot of success. And let me also give a shout out to a long-standing colleague of mine who we had to basically contribute to this cause, Moncef Slaoui, who's the non-military head of this program, is singularly probably the most accomplished, experienced vaccine developer in the world. It is that caused me to reach out to him several years ago and ask him to join the board of Moderna, which he did.
We're going to see Americans and others around the world starting to receive these vaccines. Not only is the technology new, but also requiring cold chain support. The infrastructure is clearly going to be challenging. As you think about this rollout, what are the things that are going to be critical to watch? What are the headlines that we want to see?
The way I think about it is that I'm not sure what our alternative was, because the reality is that while this country has never done this before, nobody has at this scale. There is no institution that could do it as an alternative either, and so we're quite comfortable that the distribution process that's been put in place is the best chance we have. Now, what are we looking for? In the case of Moderna's vaccine, we have many years of investment already made in ensuring a storage set of conditions that are quite attractive. That was not the original technology that exists for people to use, would require extremely cold temperatures. But because we have been developing many other vaccines, we've already worked on improvements to both the lipid particles that we use to deliver this and the processing of them that allows us to keep the materials at minus 20 degrees centigrade, which freezers can handle. And then above all, a few weeks ago, we also announced that we can keep vaccines up to a month in refrigerated conditions and for 12 hours on a tabletop at room temperature. What that means is that you can easily think about where the vaccine goes centrally, where it goes to the periphery, and how long any given lot can be available for that day's worth of vaccinations. And so training becomes important, surveillance becomes important, making sure that the right tests are done before vaccines administered, etc.